Viewer discretion is advised.
Like, I think there's so much random stuff we have to try and slough off, rub off about sex even. Like, it's a taboo, let's not talk about it. I think we need to talk more.
Mandate.
Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is all the way, originally from Otetahi, Christchurch, but now resides in Tāmaki Makaurau and Okilani. Yes, I did say she. She is an amazing communicator, but also an amazing woman in terms of the work that she's done. And so we've seen her countless times on TV. She's a TV host, broadcaster on radio, and you see her as a podcaster as well. And so you'll remember her on the TVNZ, The Breakfast Show, in the morning show. But also, if you grew up in the 90s, you remember her on Ice TV. But also in recent times, she's working on Today FM, running her own program. She hosts the program of Sunday Sanctuary, and also her own podcast, which is called Grey Areas. And also she's a media chaplain for the Christian Broadcast Association. And so please put your hands together for the amazing, the inspirational Petra Bagust.
This crowd you've got here they're awesome. I clap on demand. They're amazing.
Oh man, thank you.
I feel so good. I could go home now. I'm sorted. I don't need my kids to talk to me when I get home.
Oh yeah, you got us.
I've got an introduction like that. Awesome.
Hey Petra, thank you so much for coming on. We're very privileged because I grew up watching you. Back in the 90s of Ice TV, and it was just a real privilege and honor to have you, and for you to be our very first wahine toy on the podcast. And so just to start the ball rolling, because you're great areas. This is your own podcast and the number one. I forgot to add the number one podcast in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And so, if you can give us a bit of a download in terms of as to what was the whole story, the backstory or the background as to why you wanted to do this podcast, and what do you see the future in terms of this?
Wow, that's a big question. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I feel very humbled. I looked through your Instagram account and I'm like, ooh. There's no, I couldn't find a woman anywhere. And I'm like, it is called Mandate NZ. And so I feel, pretty privileged. Thanks for having me, for extending the talanoa, the kororo out to include the wahine. Grey Areas came from a conversation that we had in the office one day where one of the producers, Josh Couch, said, so, would you like to do a podcast? I'm like, always. Like any opportunity, to have a deep, hopefully meaningful, healthy, good, life-giving conversation. And he said, what would you do it on? What would it be about? And I said, everything I'm interested in. And unfortunately for him, I'm interested in a lot of things. So I'm very curious about lots of things, but the stage that I was at was finding myself in a really good team, a really good workspace, and finding my feet again, I think, and feeling like I had space to unpack or communicate some stuff I really cared about. And one of the things that I'd noticed was that when I resigned from Breakfast TV in 2012, I think it was, into 2012, I didn't realise that leaving that job, I was leaving the whole industry. I just had no idea that when I said, this one's not for me and I need to raise my family, which is, that perfect excuse. I did get to raise my family, but I didn't realise that was the end of the TV work. And I was like, oh, wow. And the first article I saw that came out after I resigned from Breakfast was former TV presenter, Petra Bagust. I'm like, wow, that's it. Wow. I left that job, but actually you're gone. And I was like, wow, did they get to decide? Is that it? And a couple of people asked me to do a couple of things, and I was like, oh, no, I don't really feel like doing that. And then I auditioned for something, and they're like, oh, no, we don't really want you. And I was like, wow, maybe that's it. And so years went by, and I carried on honing my kind of craft as an MC and worked for Parenting Place and was an ambassador for all sorts of things. And here I was, like, dyeing my hair every 4 weeks, like, getting rid of the roots, this is the thing, like, where have you been today, darling? Oh, the hairdressers, whatever. And so I thought, do you know what? I think I want to go natural. I think I want to let my hair grow natural. And the other thought that I had was, Petra, you realise if you do that, you'll never be on telly again.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm not on telly. I'm not on telly. I'm not even on telly. Why am I worried? But there's a way of looking on telly, generally speaking. You know, we talk about stereotypes. There's a way women look on telly, and they've got a certain colour hair, and they've got a certain physique, and they look a certain way. They fit a certain mould, mostly. And on news, it's even narrower. Like your hair's straight and it's shoulder length, and your makeup is a certain way, and you dress a certain way, and that's a woman on news. So for me, it was emancipation. It was like freedom. I am going to do what I want with how I look. And even though it sounds really little, it was a really big move. I was actually on the AM show on TV3 this week, and Paula Bennett was there, and we were yarning about whether she'd go for, you know, being a mayor of a city in New Zealand. Don't know which city, but anyway, she said, I put more thought into going grey, letting my hair colour come through, than I did into having stomach surgery.
Wow.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Because I don't know if you have expectations around how men will look and behave that you've come across in your podcast. But it cuts both ways, you know. And until recently, grey was not an option. Silver was a no-go.
For women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men, no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, grey-haired, silver-haired male newsreader, awesome. He's got more mana. He's the man. He's got wisdom.
Yeah.
Silver fox.
Because what are your thoughts on that, Petra? Because you're right. I think in terms of the natural look, and if ladies, you know, just leave their hair just to grow grey, and there's obviously you want to dye your hair, but yeah, for us as men, you know, when our hair grows grey, it's kind of like, we kind of like get the, oh man, you look cool, you're the silver fox,
salt and pepper.
Yeah, and so
George Clooney.
Yeah,
you know, so many people. Yeah, no, and I think for me, it's about it's a freedom of choice that you can. I've got no problem with people dyeing their hair. How much fun is that? You can change the colour of your hair. Cool. But do we have a choice? Do we have a choice to show up as ourselves? And to be honest, I am a silver-haired person now. And there are days when it's like, oh, whoa, who's that old lady with the reflection? And other days when I'm like, yeah, this is me. How easy is this? This is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as the podcast went, we just started to tackle taboo subjects probably. I'm an oversharer, so I tell people too much. And so we've talked about all sorts of things, about pelvic floor health, about sex when you're older. Like I called that episode "Old People Doing It." But you know, if you're with the same man for a long time, you're like, okay, you know, like where are you at? Like what energy are you putting into that relationship? What energy are you putting into nurturing or embracing who you are each as a physical, sexual being? Like how can we be positive about that when there's so much kind of confusion and negativity? Like I think there's so much random stuff we have to try and rub off about sex even. Like it's a taboo, let's not talk about it. I think we need to talk more about bodies and about like, you know, everything.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that. I like that you're talking about the sex part, you know.
Especially because we have a couple on the table.
Hello.
Hello.
It's a surprise.
Guys,
Okay.
let's talk about your sex life.
Just straight in there, Petra.
I'm so glad the two of you have come here today. So tell me,
I'm just thinking
how's
about
your
it.
erectile function?
At this age.
It is. It's interesting. It is interesting because you know, for us as men, like in terms of our wahines and our ladies, you know, as we get older, what would you like for us to know or to understand in terms of, you know, in terms of sexuality, in terms of when, you know, the different stages of life? Is there anything in particular, or even you, Caroline, and you know, is there something that you think that we should know as men?
Maybe not should know, but could know. Something you could know is that your woman is not broken, that she doesn't need to be fixed in the same way that you aren't broken, needing to be fixed. So I wonder if when we're allowed to come home to who we are as men, as women, as people who've, you know, with all of our life experiences, with the good and with the pain, with the hurt, with all of the experiences, I think if we can come to this place where we like say yes to who we are, the failings and the great bits, then somehow that gives us the space the acceptance sort of, I feel like it echoes out, like it ripples out to being able to accept somebody else. And even today, I just feel like I'm on a forever journey of learning. I don't think I'm ever going to get to the end of learning. I'm excited about that because it means I'm alive. See those people, they're leaving the country. What are they thinking? You know, they're leaving. What are they learning? They should be listening to Mandate instead. Anyway, so I think the discussion that we're kind of having now is that perimenopause, which is a 10 years, 7 to 12 years of transition, where a woman goes from being in this nurturing, breeding zone to a non-breeding zone, which is menopause. So once you don't have a period for a year, you're in menopause, right? So it's the only human system, the only biological system that actually finishes, that says sayonara, goodbye. Talofa, it's over, we're done. And then the question was, maybe women were supposed to die at the end, maybe they're just living too long. But what they've done is they've studied cultures and they've found that women's most productive, almost I would call it powerful years are in the years post-reproductivity. So that in agrarian like cultures, more primitive cultures that are living closer to the earth, that this woman who is in her menopause, or in Asia they call it your second spring, she provides for the community and the families in the society and in the social gatherings in a way that is quite profound, that she has a different kind of energy. Because as a mum, your energy is a lot on the family. It's a lot on, nurturing other people and meeting other people's needs. And so for a man, like you might be dealing with a woman who's not sure what's going on and who's struggling with some things like confusion or hot flushes or aches and pains that she hasn't had before, or a loss of desire sexually, or all sorts of things, right? On the other side of that, on the other side of perimenopause, is a woman who knows who she is and has so much to give, and who I think potentially has more energy for what could be good, healthy relationship. So, I think that if men can walk beside women and not see them as broken and needing to be fixed, but see them as, collaborating together. And how, when a woman doesn't make sense to herself, if the man is like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, rather than, I can see this is tough, this is hard. I'm here for it. I'm here for the confusion. I'm here together. We'll figure this out. I'm here for the ride. I'm not here for the long haul. And knowing in a way that this is a season and that she's going to get through it and be more beautiful, more powerful on the other side.
That's powerful. That's really powerful.
Did it talk for too long then?
No, that was good. That was good. I was like,
It's
whoa,
good.
It was good, man. I was like, because for the brothers, like for Jay and Charles, I'm thinking like, obviously my wife's on next to me, but in terms of when our wahines have their menstrual cycle, what are some of the how I gotta be careful, but what are some of the reactions or responses that we kind of get as men when our wives are going through their menstrual cycle?
I'll be honest, I know very little about it. Like, half of those terms, I'm just not aware. Like, I feel like I get stuck in my head so much that it's really hard for me to pay attention to anything unless it really, like, if my wife's going through something, she'll tell me and I'll just, whatever she needs. Space, all good. Taking the kids, all good. But in terms of understanding what she's going through, I have no idea. And I don't know if it's helpful for me to because I'm really bad with timing, so I'm just trying to keep my mouth shut, and when she's ready to open up, I'll listen. But until then, I don't know. I'm not sure how to broach that subject. It wasn't something that we talked about. Me and Brad, we're brothers, and so there was 6 boys, 2 girls, and we never really had these talks growing up. So a lot of it, I don't know if it's just me, but a lot of it, this stuff is all new uncharted territory.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of still trying to make sense of it. And the concept that you mentioned before about second spring, I think I'd heard a term, and it might have been through, your podcast about wahine, and that sort of second breath of life and spring of womanhood. So I'm kind of navigating as I go, and I'm just open to.
That sounds like a good position.
Yeah.
That sounds helpful.
I'm really interested to question what you were saying about men feeling or thinking or walking alongside their wahine as though they're broken. And I'm wondering where that messaging comes from, where that actually comes up from. Does it come from us as wahine or teine who are trying to understand like what the hell is going on right now? You know, my menstrual cycles are becoming irregular. I'm feeling these different
moods
temperatures.
are irregular. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's all these sort of things happening, and then we're sort of talking to that and expressing that stuff. And even before menopause, we're forever being insecure about how we look, our weight. And so a lot of our conversations with our husbands is, do I look fat? Do I, all of that sort of stuff. And that doesn't produce good information for them to kind of create healthy messages about us.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like we really have to change the dialogue even before menopause,
I think
just so that by the time we get there, they're ready to embrace the new spring.
I think you can't put the blame somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You can't put the blame on men or the blame on women. But I think that we're equally invested. Like if we believe life's over and we're broken, there's something definitely wrong with us.
Yeah.
Then that's what we project, That's what that's the energy we are putting out. That's kind of the, and look, if I feel broken and wrong and you don't like me, then I'm going to look for evidence that that's true. I'm literally going to look for any look you give me, any kind of like twitch. He doesn't like me. He wishes I wasn't here. He hates me. Do you know what I mean? Like the brain seeks the information to confirm what it thinks. Yeah. So somebody else, like a partner, an intimate partner, has to work so hard if we are feeling like down on ourselves and down on our body and down on our ability in bed or down on our mental capacity at the moment. That's super hard because when A, they don't know we're thinking that necessarily, and B, how do they prove it when we're like looking for proof of the opposite, So I think that even that awareness of where am I at? Like I grew up in a family where skinny was good, slim was good, and fat was bad, which is like old society, And I realized that when I put on weight, I hated myself, and when I lost weight, I loved myself. It was like I had permission. I was allowed to like myself if I was slim. But I was never ever slim enough. I was never satisfied. It was like you could never get there. So recently, because of being in perimenopause, on my way to menopause, I was like, just let myself put some weight on. And I was like, I'm just going to love myself with an extra kg and another one because I'm just going to choose. I'm just going to choose to love myself.
Yeah.
Whatever shape or size I am. And my interest is health. I'd like to be around for the grandkids, but that was a really important thing for me to do. It was really important for me to choose to be acceptable. Like, no, not acceptable, accepted and loved by me, whatever size I was. Because I feel like out of that place I can move. And then when my husband's like, oh, you look pretty good, babe. I'm not going, oh, he's just saying that. Oh, no, he doesn't really mean it. No, I don't. No, he's not telling me the truth. I'm like, thanks, babe. Come over here. It's like, oh.
And they actually mean it, don't they?
They mean it.
You mean it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they do.
All the time.
And for some reason we doubt it all the time, and yet you're...
No, but see, this is a podcast for men. But seriously, one of the best things I heard, one of the best piece of sex advice I ever got was, women, let your men see you in all your glory because they love you. Now, so what women do is we're like, oh, don't look there, don't look there. Oh, look, that looks weird or that looks funny. And then the man reads, oh, she doesn't like me. She doesn't want me to see her.
Wow.
So my feeling of not good enough radiates out. And he's like, oh, maybe she doesn't, maybe she's not into me. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, rather than can I take a risk? Can I take a risk and let my husband see all of me, like with the lights on or with that, whatever. I don't. Yeah, like the bright lights. Maybe not the bright
I take
lights.
these lights home. I want to see everything, man. Everything.
Come on over here.
I just had a realization though, like hearing that,
Yeah.
it just made me think like, oh crap, I remember sometimes feeling self-conscious about myself, but it's because I'd hear my wife say stuff and then I'm like, oh, but I feel that way about myself. So then if she doesn't like seeing that, then I'm like, oh, maybe I should like,
Yeah, she's not going to like that in me. Like,
yeah, exactly. So
it ricochets,
Yeah, it
it
does.
ricochets. The
Yeah.
insecurity kind of bounces out and off you and bounces some kind of random piece of information. But I do remember reading a book once, and there was a Pacifica woman who was a protagonist or a character in this book, and she oiled her body. Like she was preparing
Wow.
for her partner to come home. She was like, if he doesn't take me and ravish me tonight, he has got another thing coming. And I was like, if only I had this attitude. I was just like, where is my inner goddess
Yeah.
woman of value and beauty and sexuality and pleasure? Where is she?
I thought you were going to say, where's that oil?
Man, I think
That too.
got some merch now. Mandate coconut oil. Mandate baby oil.
We need to
No,
get
it should
oil.
be mandate my baby.
Man, thanks, Petra. I'm not too sure if I feel because what culturally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we don't really have these type of conversations, and so like when we're talking about, it, I go, oh shucks, some of these terms I don't even know. And it's probably because my wife's not at that stage
Yeah.
yet, like in terms of menopause, and there'll probably be guys out there that, man, this is foreign to them. And so I think having this conversation, and so we can prepare and understand, like for our women, so when they're going through it, that, man, let's just be present and
Yeah.
have this understanding. And
Like imagine if when your woman has her second puberty, that's an easier way of thinking about it. So as a child, all your hormone levels are calm. Then you hit puberty, men and women. The hormone levels go crazy. For women, progesterone, estrogen, and it's like, slamming doors and, women, teenage girls, unreasonable and angry. And you can say, darling, can you empty the rubbish bin? Why are you shouting at me, mum? Like their brain hears regular conversation as like angry. And men, testosterone, you have your version of it, right? But this transition, which is perimenopause, which Google doesn't even know that term, it underlines it in red. So don't worry, even Google doesn't know the terms. Menopause, this is second puberty. It's all the hormones going a little bit crazy before they settle down. And then they say women are happier, the happiest they've ever been potentially in their 60s and 70s. But we've been told, whatever you do, don't talk about it because life is over. You dry up, you become an old prune, you never want to have sex again, and you're just invisible.
And that's not true, right?
It's not true. It's not true. For some women, getting to menopause is really hard. It's tough and it's bad. For 3 out of 4 women, it's okay. Some they have some issues. 1 out of 4, no issues at all. Like one of my mates had to take her cardi off once. That was it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
just through it. She goes, yeah, I remember I was hot, had to take my cardi off. And she's in menopause. But so it's like, don't expect the worst. And also imagine being the guy who, when she's not making so much sense to herself, says, darling, you still make sense to me, or I'm with you. Let's just learn about it together. We'll figure it out. I'm here for you. Lots of divorces at this age. Lots of women leave their jobs because they think there's something wrong with them. They leave their marriages. They're like taking radical action because inside they're in a bit of turmoil, and it's the hormones throwing them around. But to have a safe harbour or haven, somebody who said, babe, we can do this. And if you need to shout at me, I'm not going to take it personally. I used to shout at my family a little bit in perimenopause, and I'd be, don't worry guys, it didn't mean it was just the hormones. My kids thought I was playing it up, but
Did you?
Yeah, man, interesting. Like, there've been times that, like, when my wife is like going through a menstrual cycle, I'm like, man, And so I think,
Ouch. You think, ouch.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, oh man, so it's like, and yeah, it could just change just like that, Petra. And for the usos here, it
No,
can
no,
just
you're on your own.
change.
Carry on. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, into experience, and I see it. I see the change. I see the sudden changes,
Yeah.
Petra. And obviously, it's like, man, it's like, and I'm very aware now, and I'm kind of in terms of like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm at just like what Jay was saying. Just give her space, just give her time. But also at the same time, there were times I used to think, man, I think is she just milking this now? Is she just playing on this? And I used to think to myself, what's up with this? And so I'm glad you mentioned that. No, this is what really happens to you guys biologically.
Yeah, man, I was so surprised to hear the kids say, "Oh, I think Mum's just like, milking it, basically." And I was like, "Wow, that's amazing that they think that," because hormones are so powerful. Like, and it happens inside your body, and it's invisible. But that whole thing, even like, what if as men, as tane, it wasn't so personal? What if, like, for a moment, it just wasn't about you? You know what I mean? Like, it was just about what was happening inside of us. And, yeah, to have that ally who didn't necessarily take it personally. Now, I'm not saying women can just behave badly, but, yeah, you've got this hormone storm going on. And sometimes it's a lot, yeah. So to have that, like, acceptance. And like, oh yeah, this looks tough for you. Like, it's not tough for me. Like, you're not going to be able to say the right thing. Like, just put it out there. You're not going to be able to say the right thing. You're not going to be able to make it go away. But if you can stand beside and be like, I'm here for you. Like you say, give you some space.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you
very
brought
cool.
it
That's
up.
good because a lot of men take things personally.
We all
when
do.
it comes to the relationship and not understanding what's happening biologically or chemically, and we're like, oh, she doesn't want me, or she doesn't love me, she's stressed out, and we can take it personal and think there's something wrong. And then a lot of men play scenarios in their head. It's like, okay, if you don't want me, not love me, I'll go somewhere else. And so it's cool that we're having this telenoir because to normalize it, especially for men and for and us culturally, because man, you don't talk about sex unless you're in the locker room and you got 8 kids already. Hey guys, do you want to talk about it?
2 sets of twins.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Caroline? Like on the flip side of what Peach just shared, in terms of like when you're going through your cycle and
there's just no time to play games at this age. Like, you're carrying so much. But what's interesting for me is we talk about haora, we talk about our holistic well-being, and we talk about the physical, mental, spiritual, and social. And then you talk about emotions, but you don't talk enough about hormones. And you're right. It's the stuff that we leave in the dark. It's the stuff that we leave unspoken, untouched, and yet it's a powerful, powerful drive of some of the decisions that you make in the moment because you want to feel good, or you want to maybe counteract some of the emotion that's sitting there. So, I haven't really thought about that. I haven't really thought that that's another element of us as human beings that we totally ignore, but yet when we're going through our teenage years, that's just pumping. And you're going, oh my gosh, why am I feeling this right now? And then you're trying to understand that, but you got no one to talk to about it. And then you go through your 20s and your 30s, and I'm in my 40s now, and you kind of are going through a whole different set of feelings, but you kind of think it's emotions. But in actual fact, some of it is hormonal.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of going, and you don't want to talk about it because it's whakama as well. Like, you're like sitting there thinking these thoughts, and you're like, is it normal to have these kind of thoughts?
Yeah.
Is it okay to feel this way, or not want to be intimate, or want to be intimate, all of that sort of stuff. So I find it, it's quite, for me, it's quite mind-blowing because I don't talk about it enough. And yet it's a big, big part of who we are.
it feels to me like all of the scripts that we've been given are too thin to contain us.
Yeah.
Like it's too thin. The sexual script we've got, the locker room script we've got, the script we've got, men want it too much, women don't want it enough. That's too thin. The hair script, the body script, the masculinity script, it doesn't give breadth and depth and life to how we could express ourselves as human beings. And I find as I'm older, I'm braver intimately with asking my husband questions and saying, you know, what's it like for you when I say this, or how do you feel? What would you like? Like, what level of intimacy are you interested in? Because now I feel more secure in who I am. Whereas, you know, honestly, sometimes we'd make love and there was one way we made love and I thought, oh, he just doesn't want to see me. He just doesn't really like me. But that was the thought in my head. That had nothing to do with him and what he was thinking. He was thinking, this is fun. Feels good. Whatever he's thinking. I didn't ask. I just let my thoughts track away somewhere negative about me. So how are you going to be present to intimacy in that situation? You know, and you know, where there's a lot made of, you know, new love or fresh love or the excitement, but deep knowing, deep connecting, the connecting that happens head, heart, soul, you know, where you see each other. Now, that's not every time, you know, you're connecting, right? Because there's stress and there's sleeplessness and there's kids and there's bills to pay. All that stuff impacts on a relationship on a regular basis, let alone an intimate basis. But wow, if we could bring ourselves more fully to each other, you know, and let our scripts widen.
That's so good, because like in terms of having this thin script, like does media play a big part of the script that's given to us? Because for a lot of men, they project what a lot of them, like porn plays a big part of how we live out our
fantasies,
our fantasy. Well, I don't watch porn, but
But when you did,
back in the day, I'm not saying anything. I know that porn is one of the primary sex educators for our young people, right? So 12-year-olds come across it, not because they're looking for it, but because the people who make it want people to watch it, right? So the porn industry doesn't give a rat's ass about your sex life. It doesn't care about the quality of your intimacy. It doesn't care about whether you're getting it or not. It just wants your eyeballs as long as possible, as much as possible on its product. So it's a business, and it's not interested in the rest of your life or anything about you except for your eyeballs. So porn is this difficulty because it's everywhere now, and it's you know, just so much of it, and it's just everywhere. It is become this primary educator. And what happens physiologically, what happens for men when they're aroused is their security system turns off. So their lookout for, is there anything dodgy here? Just turns off, because you can't make love and be on the alert pretty much, eh? Like, you generally make love somewhere where you're safe, pretty much. I mean, unless you're a teenager and this is the back of the car. But like, ideally, physiologically, it's a vulnerable physical position to be making love. So you generally, your security system is down. So then men aren't even looking out for the danger, say, of porn. If you're aroused, you're not looking out for, hey, what's going on here? You're not thinking critically. Oh, hang on a minute. Actually, there's not much consent. Oh, that, you know, I mean, I've studied a bit of porn. I've got a friend who works in the space, and you know, the stuff that young men end up seeing is all to do with this one view where there's no relationship. It's the sex that's happening to a person or at or on a person, and there's no real connection and intimacy. And the rules say that she has to look like she's enjoying herself, or then the rating goes up, right? So things could be happening that aren't that pleasurable, aren't that good feeling, and she just has to slow grin and bear it, you know. So then it's giving mixed messages. So I think we're selling ourselves short if porn's our educator, because it's not about partnership, you know. It's not about talanoa. It's not about
that deep not knowing.
Yeah, the deep knowing
that only comes with experience.
You know, and surely it is ultimately very satisfying for a man to know that his woman is loving what's going on, that she has pleasure, deep pleasure. Surely that's satisfying. You tell me, because I'm not a man. But that's what I've heard, that it is profoundly fulfilling for a man to be able to bring intimacy in a powerful way to his woman.
Yeah, I agree.
Powerful might be the wrong word.
In terms of in terms of the pornography and all that, you see all the societal pressures and pornography, and you see a lot of these young men and even older men now who are so trapped in this addictive, it's very addictive world, and this false image of what love should be and how sex should be, and like you were saying, there's no relationship, there's no emotions tied to it. It's just let's just have sex, and so a lot of those porn videos and clips, and a lot of our young men who are watching this, and older men, it's telling them in terms of societal, it's telling them this is the way it is. This is how you make love to your woman, your wife, and so forth. But it's so detrimental, and we know that. We know it's detrimental. It's for me personally, it's like it is. It's a killer. It's a real killer in terms of your relationship. And so a lot of that for me personally is that in terms of you and Petra, in terms of toxic masculinity, is that one of the biggest issues in terms of toxic masculinity in this day and age?
Well, it's a good question. Well, I want to say something though. I want to say, don't feel judgment. If somebody, people watch porn, right? A lot of people watching porn, but it's like, don't feel like that you're stuck or that you are a bad person. Like, it's not, there's no judgment from here. It's like, what does it bring to your life? Like, how is it serving you, or are you serving it? Like, how is it bringing joy or life into your life? Now, even that when you were mentioning porn is addictive, it's physiologically a good feeling to be aroused. But then we're told, oh, my body, I feel guilty about it, or I just want more of it. But I know dudes whose, their penises stop working because it's porn or nothing. Like, the real thing doesn't do it for them anymore. So they're having real world implications for their relationships. But it's like, I just think, can we step back and go, okay, what good thing is coming out of this? Like, where is it making my relationship better? Like, you can ask your missus, is this working for you? Do you like this stuff that I'm seeing over here that I now think I'm doing because she's smiling in the porn movie? Do you like this? Is this actually feel good for you? Because I heard a porn actress say the stuff that happens in porn isn't about sex. It's sports sex. It's like, it looks good for the camera. That's what porn is. It looks good for the camera. It doesn't feel good for the woman. Like, it's not. And, it has to be visual. So there's all those restrictions. To speak about toxic masculinity, as a woman, we're told we have to be a certain weight and be a certain loudness. And even when we were talking about menopause before, like, women are not supposed to be angry. We're not supposed to be angry, Like, what would a healthy expression of anger look like for a woman? We ought to be exploring that. What would a healthy expression of anger look like for a man? Like, what is the role of anger? It's to combat injustice. It's to speak up when something important has happened and you need to speak up. Like, there are times when anger is appropriate. Aggression, not so much, But how could we take anger and look at it and say, what is the purpose and role of this? How could I express this in a way that gives life, in a way that does something useful or positive? And toxic masculinity, from what I've heard, is if men are true men, so the theory goes, they have to be good in the bedroom, the boardroom, and in the bodybuilding. Like, they have to have the knockout body, the knockout whatever that have sex is, and then the knockout bank account. That is not it. If you're supposed to live to those ridiculous extreme examples, that's not living, is it? Like, that is like being squashed into this thin script where you aren't a person anymore. You're a bank account, a penis, and a bicep. That sucks. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And it's not to say you can't have, care for your body and love it and make it look beautiful, or be fiscally sound and build a bank account up, or care for somebody and be great in bed. It's not saying any of those. It's just that that's not the only expression of masculinity, and it's certainly not the ultimate expression of masculinity, in my opinion.
Oh, that's good. Because if that was the standard, I only took 1 out of 3 of these boxes. But I'll let you guess which one. I'm not rich. Then after buddy.
You the number one man.
In my opinion. What I want to say while we're still on the topic of sex, like, because, you know, we know if porn was our main educator, then the way we express ourselves in the room is going to be, you know, we're not good. But in terms of what you talk about, in terms of this deep connection, intimacy, what is that like? What is that in terms of, like, what does that mean to you?
I reckon that's outside the bedroom. That's inside the bedroom. It's like when I can show up, warts and all, and I choose my husband again. I choose him. I say, it's not to say that I didn't go through a season in my marriage and be like, here we go again. You know, like, and pull faces when he says things I don't like and be like, I'm a bit bored with this relationship. But I realized, what actually am I bringing? Like, what effort am I putting into this? Is this something that I care about? And when I turned towards my husband, like when I turned towards him and was like, oh yeah, you're a whole own ass person who has hopes and dreams. What space have I made for these recently? Like, rather than seeing you as somebody who's like annoying me or shutting me down or telling me what to do, what if I just made a bit of mental and emotional space to see what you're doing? And he decided to study. He'd never been to uni, and he decided to take up a course, and he's doing 1 paper a semester. So it's like, it's going to take him about 35 years to get a degree or something. But watching him do something for himself, like watching him input and invest in who he is as a man, and really brings me joy when he pursues his friends. Like, I think he's a very dedicated dad, and I'm like, I want to see him hanging out with his mates, and it's like this mutually beneficial seeing, and I know that sometimes I project stuff onto him. Like, you have circular arguments with the person who you're married to. Like, you're like, oh, this argument, I know how it ends. And I keep saying, how can we break this cycle? How can we do this differently? And so I think for me, intimacy looks like I still care enough to want it to be better, and to believe in him, and to believe in us, like to believe that we can be deeper and stronger.
That's cool.
Together. Yeah. I feel hopeful. I feel really hopeful about our relationship. And that is even accepting that this part of it is not going to be this dream fantasy that I thought it would be. That he's never going to be this idea that I thought he would be. You know, like, let go of some of my requirements of him that aren't going to happen. They're just not. It's not who he is. Let it go. You know? But not wait for him to be everything I need. Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah, showing up for each other.
Because I mean, there's this thinking that we, as you marry, when you're in a relationship and it starts to extend for a period of time, you kind of think it could get comfortable, it could get complacent,
Slippers.
and then you start to. You may even start to get bored.
Yeah, you may.
You may.
Okay.
Okay, you do. You get bored.
You might get bored.
Yeah.
Just
Don't know what
speaking
you're talking about.
hypothetically here.
Hypothetically.
But I guess in just hearing you, kōrero, and I think we don't see this enough, is we're changing every day. We're a new person every day. We've had an experience yesterday that's going to contribute to us today, that's going to contribute to us tomorrow, that's going to give us a new learning, a new perspective. We don't embrace the new version of us that we wake up to. And I think we need to, because if we don't, and we just keep looking at the past version of ourselves, trying to relive that over and over, we totally miss what's in front of us. And so I love what you're saying. I love that intimacy is about being ready to learn something new about your partner or your husband or your wife or girlfriend, whatever, learning something new about them, because that's, you know, you're not the same person today, yesterday. And so I think that's, we don't see life in that way. I just love your perspectives. I love your perspectives around seeing intimacy as us growing together, letting go of stuff that you wanted for them, but also being open to what they're becoming. I think, to me, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
It sounds exciting, eh?
It
I love
is.
hearing you re-say it. Like, that's so, the way you put it is so beautiful. And I've heard two things. I heard a woman say, a famous relationship counsellor, Esther Perel, she said, pretty much everybody has 3 or 4 marriages in them, but most of us do it with the same person. So we do 3 or 4 marriages with the same person, and I felt such freedom in that. I don't have to be the same wife that I've always been. I can grow and change. If I'm in a dry patch of my relationship, it's not going to be like this forever. If I'm in the high point of my relationship, okay, it's not going to be like this forever. You know, this idea of what you're saying, allowing each other to change. And I will tell an example, because I used to notice what was wrong often at the beginning. I would say, oh, you know, this hasn't worked and this hasn't worked and this. And my husband thought I was a negative person. So he would see me as quite negative, because I'd point out the bits that could be improved or the bits that needed to be fixed. And it was just a habit. It was a habit of noticing what was wrong. And I decided to change that habit. And so I would notice, I would just be more positive. I would just say off the bat all the things that were working or all the things I loved and enjoyed. But the thing was, he couldn't hear it, like, for this whole patch of time. And I remember calling out in the house, hey, babe, I love what you've done in here. What's wrong in there? He'd say. And I'd say, oh no, I love how you've changed the pot plants. What did I kill? What did I do wrong now? You know, like, what did I spill? And I was like, wow, he's hearing something I'm not saying, because he's expecting me to be how I used to be. And so I had to go, hey, time out. I want you to know I've made a change. I'm choosing to see the positive. It's that I'm embracing what's good first. I'm relaxing about all that stuff. And unless you can see it, you'll never let me be it. You'll never let me be this new person who sees the best in people first sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So that was, I actually had to make the request directly. So, yeah, we have to sometimes make that space for each other.
Yeah.
And what was his reaction after that? After you sat down with him and
Oh, yeah, I think he saw it.
He saw it.
And I wasn't angry or anything. I was just like, what? I was like, whoa, a realization. Oh, unless he allows me to be this new version of me, or this changed version of me, then we'll both be stuck with that old version.
that's awesome.
You have to expect it.
Yeah. Because what's the old way that when we hear it? What do we call it? When always pointing out the negative.
They're nagging on us.
Oh, that's the word. Nagging.
Bro, it is. They're nagging on us. And so we
I call it talking.
The Bible says nagging.
You've let women in the podcast now.
the roof of a nagging. But it is interesting, Petra and Caroline, because it is. I think for us, man, it's very simple. I don't know, Jay and Charles, is very simple in terms of who we are and accepting our wives and so forth, and looking at them. And for the longest time, you know, I hear time and time again people like, and there's quotes out there, oh, your wife is trying to change you. They're trying to change you into this better person of who they expect you or they envision you to be. And it can be very hard for us as men to, like, okay, it's in terms of accepting what they want, but also accepting ourselves. Yeah. And I can imagine with Hamish and what you were saying in terms of the example you were setting through. Oh, so if she's saying something, oh my gosh, I got to be wary because she's very angry.
Criticizing,
judging me now,
critiquing, nagging.
Yeah, and so it can, like Charles was saying, it does play on our minds. Like, man, what is this? She's always nagging on me. She doesn't trust me, all that kind of stuff. And so for us as men, because for us we're simple. I think we're simple beings in terms of as a man, but we just want to know that, hey, our wives are supportive of what we do. Yeah. But also we need our own as men, we need our own time and our own space to be like, hey, we're in control. We can provide. We can do all of this. But the struggle in terms of our wives and understanding each other, you know, being able to understand where we stand and where she stands, and I think that's where the lack of communication happens, and a lot of a lot of the clashing and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
because we don't talk about it.
Friction.
Yeah, so we don't. I don't know. Do we actually, as the Usos, as brothers, do we actually talk about certain issues, or do we just off? Yeah, I don't know. Jay,
Pete's talking about himself, but nah, kidding. no, Pete's right. Like, because for a long time, I'm just trying to think. But like, you know, my wife, she's strong. She's a strong woman, and one thing I always tell others, like, because we've been together for over 20 years, and one thing that's helped me grow is that she's allowed me to grow. Like, she, like what Petra said, like, she could easily like point out everything and could lead from the front, but she had to be patient. It took ages because, you know, I turned 30 and she goes, still like a little kid, but, you know, she allowed me to grow into the man that I've become and still evolving into. So she gave me that space, and I think it was always, yeah, like you said, like, what's simple, like sometimes we always think like, you know how, I don't know about you men, but like, you know, if when you say, what do you want to eat? And then they go, oh, up to you. And then you pick, and they go, why did you come here? I don't want to eat here. Like things like that. Like we can't read your body if you tell us. Like there's always this expectation on us. Like, oh, why didn't you do this or come and pick me up at this time? Or like something, it could be anything. And then we don't do it. It's because we need instruction and we would do it. But because we've been together for so long, I know, like I understand and I know, okay, both things I'm gonna make sure I prepare this meal or
buy an extra burger for her. Yeah.
Extra burger. If she doesn't eat it, then I know
You got an
it's
extra
for me.
burger. Win-win.
Win-win, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think women have expectations that men will read their minds sometimes, and emotionally that they'll fulfill these emotional needs that we don't mention because we're a little bit worried that if we mention them, you won't fulfill them. And women are supposed to pretend that we're not needy when every human being has needs. Yeah. It's normal and right and good to have needs. It's okay, but we're like, ooh. You know, and then there's attachment styles. Like some people they pursue, and then the other person's like, whoa, and then the other person's like, whoa. So even just understanding how we operate, I agree. My husband's like, oh, you know, if you want to just say so, and I'm like, oh, that's dangerous. Like you just tell you what I want. You know, what if you don't give it to me? You know, like
I've never.
so there's like this, you know, there's this element of trust, where it's so funny. And letting each other grow. Or, like it's all good in theory. I do think though that a famous psychologist called M. Scott Peck wrote a book called The Road Less Travelled. And he said there's only two reasons to get married. One is they've tried lots of different ways of raising kids and kind of a mum-dad concept, that's the best construct, flawed as it is, and for the friction. And I was like, holy what? For the friction. So this idea that we rub ourselves smooth, and you look at water and rocks, whoa. Like water is soft, but it makes those rocks smooth. You give it long enough. And this idea that, you know, the people who irritate us the most are actually, they're activating something in us that maybe needs a bit of a file. I need a bit of a smooth. And that's really confronting. Like when I get up in arms about something, I've started to go, okay, what is it in me that is activated by this? Like how can I, like, you know, carry my part rather than, you are ruining my life, husband. How dare you? Like I'm not very good at saying no. That's probably why I said yes, to the podcast. No. I'm not very good at saying no. I actually love saying yes and don't like saying no, but I didn't used to let myself say no. So I'd have this big thing and I'd say, hey, Michelle, what should I do? Should I say yes or should I say no? And I was only ever asking if I wanted to say no. And he'd said, you should say no. And I'm like, what? You're trying to ruin my life. I can't say no. You know, they'll be upset with me. And for him, it was simple. If you want to say no, guy with boundary, you say no. It's simple. You just say no. I'm like, you don't understand. It's easy for you. You know, like, but actually, maybe he's in my life to help me find my way to healthy no. Even though I hated it.
That's so true though. Just thinking, and even right back to the example about like choosing food. Like I realize now with my wife that if I give her like too many choices, I'm just like, what's for dinner? You know, she can't decide, but we know now that she loves to have choices. And so we make it a bit of a game. I'll throw out 3 choices and I kind of know, I have an idea what you like. And then it's just the 3, 2, 1, boom, tiebreaker, get one of the kids and they're the third one. Okay, these are the options. Which one, you know, works best? And I just think there's something about that, knowing that very specific information,
So
you know,
cool.
our pattern of, I think I mentioned it last time about our pattern of chaos. Like everyone operates on their own sort of rhythm and pattern, but like, you can only get to know someone's pattern when you live with them, when you clash heads, bump heads, annoy each other, all that sort of thing. Like sort of similar to the water and the rocks. It's that you hang in there and eventually you just are able to talk about things. And something you said earlier on about, you know, women are not, they're not broken women who need men. I've always felt in the reverse of that. I've always felt that I was the broken one and my wife has helped me through things. And she has, because we've been able to talk about things that I've never spoken to anyone in the world about. But she's helped me break things down and realize patterns that just, I hadn't connected the dots before. And now because of that, our relationship, you know, now I feel like we can talk about anything and, you know, and we do for the most part. And I'm really enjoying this journey because I've felt like in the past, you know, when you're bored or, you know, having these expectations because you're being exposed to things at a young age and things are really unrealistic. But I think coming through all of that, it's really helped me find my purpose. And my purpose now is to show my gratitude, to cherish my family, but to show it through the things that I'm, you know, my endeavors and the things that I'm trying. And like you, Petra, I think sometimes I overshare and sometimes, you know, I say yes a lot when I know my wife is always telling me no, but adventure is such a big part of who I am. And I think it's, you know, for all of us, and there's just something special about just seeing where things go. I mean, you've been able to come here and share so much with us, and I'm so grateful to, you know, that you've been able to come here and open our minds to some of this.
That's cool.
so
That's
heavenly.
awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, with the rate of divorce and breakup and all that, and they stem from a lot of what we're talking about them not doing. Like, how do you, like, because we want, I guess, as we open this kōrero up today and talk to some of these real issues and we talk about some really good experiences and what's working for us, like how do we help those who are struggling, you know, who are in a relationship where just maybe taking their eyes off them and putting their eyes on the other person might just make a difference in that relationship in that moment? Like, what are some things that we can offer men and women, tools that they can take away from this conversation that maybe this evening or when they watch the podcast, they can go, okay, maybe if I just do that, there might be a chance there might be an opportunity to save this relationship, or just hold it out a little bit longer instead of just finding the exit, because it's become too much or overwhelming. And I get that it could become too much and overwhelming. I get that. But people haven't just come together out of nothing. They've come together through attraction. They've come together because there was some compatibility right at the beginning. But because of our reactions and our responses to stuff, we then start to sort of veer off. So how do we, you know, what can people do that's simple enough for them to just make a slight difference in their relationship just for tonight, and maybe hope that might change things tomorrow? I mean, I'm optimistic about this because, you know, if we can do it, not that we can do it, if we're willing to work on it, you know, and keep working on it, like, what do people need to do out there to choose that?
I've got 4 ideas, and
cool.
perimenopause, I've forgotten 3 of them, so you're just left with 1. No, I love your idea about making incremental changes, and like quite a few thoughts come to mind because every relationship is hard. Every relationship has difficulty in it. Your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your colleagues, even your relationship with your best friend can be the best ever, but sometimes they are a little bit annoying, you know? So I trust relationships that have been through difficulty because it's sort of tested them. And if everybody's just like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I was like, oh, this relationship, this hasn't come under any pressure. Like, I don't know if this is a good time relationship or not, if this person's just here for the good times and then they're gone. So I'm much more trusting of relationships that have had a little bit of tension on them to see, you know, are we invested in each other? As far as intimate relationships go, we all have difficulties and we take our difficulties with us. So you can leave any relationship you like and the person you take with you is yourself. So you take your doubt, your fear, your rejection, your not enoughness, your questions, good and bad, with you into the next relationship. So I think the easiest option is to push all of our pain out and be like, it's you, it's this, it's that, it's because of this. And that makes sense, right? We're trying to survive. So there's this kind of impulse to justify. It's not me, it's you. And there's this impulse to rewrite. I don't think I was ever in love with you. I hear people say that as they get out of a relationship. I don't think I ever loved him really. Or I don't think I ever really loved her. That's not true. You really had all those hormones and chemicals and you had all that attraction and you really did think they were a bit of all right. But the idea that we would stay in any one state and it would be just at this perfect point. I think for me, I went to counselling for years. After I had my baby, I had some depression, and so I went and got some counselling. And I remember distinctly my counsellor saying to me, not only can you not change your husband, it is not your job to. So not only can you not change him, you're not supposed to. And I was like, wow, that's just taken a whole load off. Imagine all the time and energy I'm going to save. Now I don't have to fix and change my man. This is awesome. But it was kind of a revelation of, what if he isn't broken and needing to be fixed? What if I'm not broken and needing to fix? So in terms of relationship, can we find our own okayness? Can we live out of a germ or a gem of, what if I'm good inside? Like, what if I'm doing the best I can with what I have? And another phrase is, we love clumsily. Human beings love clumsily. So if we're expecting perfection of our partner, we're expecting them to know everything or get everything right and be smooth, we're just not taking into account that we love clumsily. We hurt each other and we don't mean to. Sometimes we do it out of our own pain. You know, like just the nuance of saying, oh yeah, okay, this is going to be a bit hard. We're going to have crunchy bits. It's going to be crunchy for a while. But actually to start a new relationship, I'm just going to have this happy, snappy season, then it's going to get all crunchy again. I'm just going to take myself into that new relationship. So for me, unless there's underlying, like, you know, there's a gambling addiction, there's a drink addiction, or there's stuff that's going on that really needs to be addressed, like actual safety stuff. What is it? How can we, like you're saying, make space for each other and turn towards each other? So this is one of my main relationship revelations, is that it's not about my husband and I in combat, like when you sit right in front of somebody, it's really confronting. Have you noticed how you have those really cool conversations when you're in the car and you're both facing forward? You just like can talk about all sorts of deep stuff because you're not looking at each other. Nobody can see if anybody's pulling a face. But that whole, you know, if in an argument it's about me winning or him winning, we're both on a hiding to nothing, because one person loses if someone wins. So if I have to be right, there's a problem. There's a big problem in my relationship, because that makes them wrong. And if they have to be right, then that makes me wrong. Did you see how that binary thing of right and wrong, winner and loser, doesn't work in relationship? No. It's good on a sports field. Let's do it out there. Let's have a team win and the other team have a participation award. But if we see ourselves as side by side, this is my whole theory. If we see ourselves as shoulder to shoulder, but each offering a unique perspective, because if you cover one eye, your ability to focus and see things isn't as good. So this is this much difference the left eye and the right eye working together have a clarity that one eye doesn't have? What if me and my partner are shoulder to shoulder and our perspectives are aligned? Like, it's really helpful to work out if you've got the same values. That's a really helpful thing for intimate relationship. If you don't have the same values, it's really tough. You know, like enough of the same values. So maybe have a values combo. But that focal point of the two of you where you get to see differently. I see the world differently to my husband. Can I allow him to see the world differently to me? And then where does it cross? Where does it bring ourselves into focus? So that's been my effort has been to be thinking of us as shoulder to shoulder, not eye to eye, in that confronting way.
That's beautiful.
Man, this is awesome. Gee.
I like that.
Yeah. Jeez.
And,
Man, Petra. Okay.
and you've got to be willing, eh? You've got to be willing.
Yeah, that's hard, eh? To listen to it's so hard when my husband says it, just hear me. And I'm like, I hear you.
Props to you, Hamish.
But I was just thinking about, you know, what are some practical things you can do, and just to add on to Petra's points.
Yeah.
Invest in some baby oil. Oh, that's what I got out of the sun.
My baby oil.
My baby oil.
And you can wear it.
Yeah. Hey, I will.
Then you'll be good in two of those things. Check out the glisten on that bicep.
Oh man, Petra, it is Petra. It's just been a wealth of knowledge in terms of hearing our wahine and your perspective, and also with Caroline. It is because it is. We're in a place in a time and a day and age where, you know, sometimes men have kind of, and you can agree to disagree, but we're kind of demonized nowadays, and there's men can't really say things, or, you know, there's obviously this toxic masculinity, all this, or emasculate men, all that kind of stuff you hear out there in the media, and it can be quite detrimental and damaging for our men, or especially our younger men coming up, and they don't feel like, what does it mean to be a man in this day and age? What does it be to be a man in the modern era or modern day? And so it's quite refreshing, Petra, and with Caroline, to hear your perspective, and for us to educate. And this is the whole premise around this. Is for us when we talk to our wahines, to educate each other, but also to understand the different perspectives.
Yeah, men are marvellous. Oh, you're just magnificent. Honestly, you are magical creatures. You can lift heavy objects. But also, it's just like, how can we come home to the unique difference? Like, you know, I used to think, men don't make sense, they don't talk enough. But how you do things is right and good. And it's letting yourselves be right and good. And we can let ourselves be right and good in that way that is, we each have so much to bring, you know? And I think out of that self-acceptance often is where the acceptance of others can come from. That we almost have to have it before we can give it away. But that's hard. That's hard work. That's work I'm still doing, you know. I feel like it's like an elevator. It comes up. Oh, that thing's come up again. I have to. Oh, okay.
Still there.
Okay, still there. Gosh, I have to deal with that again. You know?
Keyword hard work. It is.
Yeah.
It is hard work.
But worth it.
Yeah, for
really
sure.
worth it. And look, you guys have built a community here. Like, you've got each other, but you've got the community of listeners who know they're not alone in their struggles, that everybody struggles. I mean, I'll go home, probably have a real Barney with Hamish tonight and be like, oh, well, you know, said all that good stuff supposedly, and here I am just busy being a human, loving clumsily. But yeah, keen to have, just to see you reach out to each other and to your community and be like, fellas, we got you, we're here for you. You know, we got each other.
Man, I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's important for men to hear that there's support for them.
Yes.
Because society is doing some of that to our tāne, to our men. And it's quite sad to see. I mean, when you're in your 40s, you've been around for 4 decades, 4.5 decades. So you've seen like trends.
Yeah. Yeah, fashion.
Aged
Sorry, I
women
was just
now.
thinking about Kevin Hart and Dom Cheadle when he told his age and he gets no, but I didn't mean that like that.
Yeah,
Carry on.
okay.
Sorry.
See, I haven't dyed my hair. But you've seen these trends and you grow up with men who, like my dad and my grandfather, very determined, focused, outspoken, very laser focused on what they had to do, and would say certain things. And then today, you kind of go, where are those guys today? Like, what's happened to their voice? What's happened to them leading in the front? Like, what's happened there? What has society done to contribute to that? And what do we need to do to undo that? Because I've got a son. I have a son who's just turned 13. He's going to be a teenager, and I'm like, nah, that's not happening to my son. Like, I want to make sure he's allowed to be fully man, without any social expectations on what he can say, what he can't say, what he can do, what he can't do. And we really need to be protective of that. And I know you've got 2 sons, and I can imagine you're very similar in terms of making sure they're fully themselves. And so being able to, I think this podcast allows men to just do that. And it's been such a great experience to be able to hear men speak freely, be raw, be honest, be open. But that needs to continue. We need to be able to see that more and more and more.
Yeah, and shout out to all our men that have come on and sort of expressed their stories, because it's not easy, but they've been through it, and they're still on this journey of like evolving and getting the right support. And so them allowing themselves to be vulnerable and share their journey, it's opened the doors for others to do the same. And we get so many messages from our men, and especially the wives or partners of our men, that saying, man, because of what you guys have talked about, it's given me a deeper understanding of my partner, and so they're able to have these conversations, and they're growing together. And then tonight, like, this is just a new revolution, I guess, or evolution of the podcast, because now we're having a conversation with not just men, but with our wahine, and things that you have spoken about. Man, it's been enlightening, because it's things we don't usually talk about, and I love the how you talk about being shoulder to shoulder, because we've got a couple here who are shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, we have to.
And it's an amazing illustration of like how we can move forward as people, as a community, and working shoulder to shoulder with each other, and understanding, and continue to communicate. And I just love it. It's good, man.
And I also love the stage in life that we've been able to journey through in this kōrero. I love that. Is there a male version of your show?
I know somebody else in radio, they were like, we need a boys version of this.
You just need the men to come to your show.
It's mandate.
I love it. I love it.
Once you guys are a little older.
But
I wish
they are.
I could have grey hair so I could be George Clooney, but I got no hair. It's the headline that, man, that's sad, man. They wouldn't put me on TV because of my hair.
And you can't be Prime Minister, supposedly. Oh, no, watch out, Christopher Luxon. No, don't say that. In America, no bald Prime Minister since the advent of telly.
Oh, wow.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, they haven't had a bald president.
Just
but they had toupees. They had toupees. What was that?
Just came over. I might have to grow my hair. Sorry, Jay had a question.
No, you're all good. I think for me, just thinking how you mentioned your son, and I just can't help but think of the kids that I teach, who are sort of at that age where they're about to go through puberty, and I know some of them are already, starting to go through that, some of that, and just some of the conversations I've had recently about, need to keep the kids in line and keep them in order and all this sort of stuff. And I think for me, it's always been about the character of a child. To me, that's what teachers do, is like we guide them, we yeah, we give them the tools to, the curriculum and learn all the basics and all that sort of stuff. But more importantly, I think for me is helping them develop character, because I think all that other stuff will come, but the emotional resilience and the character, knowing who they are, identity, all that sort of stuff. And so I just think about my kids who are going through that, and, they know when they can come into the class and express themselves, however they're feeling.
Yeah.
If it's a messed up day, they
Yeah.
cuss, all good.
Yeah.
Like, you're my kids, let's talk about it. And it feels really empowering to know that regardless of, because getting older is scary. Like, sometimes I'm like, what am I doing teaching these kids, or even being a parent? I'm like, I'm not even qualified. Like, I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. And I think it's just calming to know that there's hope and that it's part of the journey, and that, we embrace it. And I think there was a tagline for Grey Areas that I thought was so fantastic. It was like, going grey with gusto, gorgeousness, and breaking the mold. And I really see that energy in you tonight, and it's really cool that it emanates from you, because I feel like I've been able to pick up some of that hope and gusto, and it's kind of backed me a little bit, because I started to feel a little like questioning myself, like, am I seeing things wrong when everyone else is doing what they're supposed to, and I'm seemingly the rebel doing things differently. But it's kind of cool to just feel like, no, this is my journey, this is who I am, and this is who I am to these kids, to my kids. And it's just cool to see that, in fact, we're all on this journey together. So yeah,
That's so cool.
It's been cool.
That's so cool. I just love that you let your kids show up. You let them show up, all of them. The bits that are easy to deal with and the bits that aren't, the bits that are socially acceptable and the bits that aren't. That's safe space, that's relationship. When you can show up and be seen and loved for who you are, because that shows them that they're safe maybe to come home to themselves. It's massive. It's such a gift. Yeah. That's so cool. I want you as my teacher.
He's a brilliant teacher. He's a brilliant teacher.
He's a snacksy. I'm sure my teacher. Man.
Oh, Petra, man.
Sorry, because I know we spoke out there, and I think Caroline had mentioned that you've been on a Te Ao Māori journey. Are you able to talk about it? Because most of our audience are all Pasifika Māori, and it's really, I think it's cool when.
Well, you're kind. Thanks for leading me into your culture. So kind for making space. I was standing outside a building, and I was like, "What? I want to learn something. What do I want to do? Creative writing, or do I want to?" I've always wanted to speak a second language, and I've always wanted to learn Te Reo Māori. And so I walked inside, and they're like, "Right, we're all going to learn Māori." And I'm like, "Really? Great, sign me up." And so we started these lessons through Te Wānanga or Aotearoa, and they would come, and we would go early on a Tuesday morning, and then the next year it was early on a Wednesday morning, and we'd have 2-hour classes. And we had wonderful kaiako, and they taught us stuff. And honestly, I reckon it took me 2 years to be brave enough to go. It's like trying to hear the vowel sounds properly, right? And just go up to someone and I'm like, kei te pia here, kei te pia koe, kei te pia here koe. Like, I was just like so nervous, because I don't know if it's because I could communicate okay in English, but I was just sort of slightly freaked out. And I still feel the fear, but the more kupu, the more words I learned, and the more tikanga we learned, and mokawa, the more we understood Te Ao Māori, the way of a different way of seeing the world, a very embodied way of seeing the world, and to kind of be allowed into the perspective of another nation's eyeballs, and just to. I think, for me, I fell in love with my own life again through Te Reo Māori, because I got new words for it, new language. And sometimes, like the word you mentioned, ruahine, instead of menopause, that's like, this word has no baggage for me. Like, this is a fresh word. This is a new way of seeing that gives me space to think differently about something that the whole of society says is just terrible, just dreadful. I remember going to a lecture and somebody said, I've got nothing good to say about menopause. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am not jumping on your bus. But here I was learning language, and I'm still a baby learner, but anytime I speak in public, and I'm in love with the language, and anytime I speak in public, I want to represent, this is a taonga, like it is a treasure. People's languages hold their cultures. So, you know, language holds ideas. It holds, the essence, I think, of how we express ourselves and understand and know ourselves and how we live and have our being in the world. And so if we don't have the language, then we don't have that way of thinking and that way of being. So it's such a joy to be allowed in and to be able to, I think my desire would be to create a bridge and ask people to hop on, you know, like people like me, like Palangi and Pākehā people, and say, come on over, come on, step onto the bridge, like take a step towards tangata whenua, you know, as tangata tiriti, like actually make an effort, take a step towards, because it always gives more than it takes. And I feel grateful. I know I don't have the same mamai, I don't have the same pain and language trauma, so you know, I'm learning not to take up space in language spaces, like not to be asking all the questions, and not to be, it's not about me and my understanding, but it's about how can I participate, you know, how can I continue to foster and build. And you know, this is what sets New Zealand apart, you know, is how beautiful tangata whenua and Pacifica people, like, this is so good. I'm like, I could wax lyrical, but it's such an addition to my life, the perspectives, the tikanga Māori and the language.
That's awesome.
Because, you know, Petra, one of the things I've really love about you in this part of your life is your sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And this real, I mean, this is just, you have this real sense of innocence and freedom where you can say what you want to say, but you also have this real heart for people. And then, you know, you've also just touched on your journey to this point. Has the, you know, learning Te Ao Māori and all of that, has that been a part of it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even prior to that, where was the turning point for you where you were just like, fuck it.
I know, fuck it.
Sorry.
Like, let's
You
go.
know, this is what I'm going to do. This is who I am.
I think the podcast has been quite significant. I think letting my hair go grey and pursuing things because I was passionately engaged in them. Like there was no commercial purpose for me to learn the reo. And I hope, oh man, imagine if I could actually do a full immersion one time and really get into it. Like there's still so much I want to learn. But it's like this when do I let myself show up as me? You know, at what point do I stop editing myself and squishing myself into these shapes to please other people? Who even are these other people? Like, where are they? Are they voices in my head, or are they thoughts that I've had, or ways I perceive the world as requiring me to be? Because I'm a law-abiding citizen. You know, I'm not. You know, it's not like it's my kind of the. Fuck yes, it's not fuck you. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, and I will climb on top of you to get free. It's, yeah. I can just show up as me. And if people don't like it, that's okay. Like even this journey of, I approach all the guests who come on Grey Areas. I'm just stoked when someone says no. I mean, I'm sad in some ways because I'm like, I would love to talk to them. Yeah. But when they say no, I'm like, it's not right for you right now. I respect your no. But I used to be afraid of no, you know, afraid of saying it, afraid of receiving it, afraid of maybe rejection. Now I'm like, if you don't like me, more the power to you. That fair enough. That's fine. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But I like me. So I'll take myself over here. You know, like I don't need everybody. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels.
It's freeing, yeah.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like I'm working less hard.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you go, I don't have to spend any more energy here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And maybe running out of some energy means that you think about where you're going to put your energy. Do you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
We're glad.
It reminded me of some. I think you did an episode with Susie Cater and you talked about no and how our bodies react to just hearing the word no.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really fascinating. And then you literally would just took turns saying no to each other.
She said, "Shall we say no to each other?" And we sat there saying no to each other. I'm like, whoa.
You didn't do nah. Nah.
I tried that with like my 19-year-old girlfriend, my best friend when I was young. I said, like, she was terrible at saying no, and I said, I'm going to ask you some questions. You have to say no. I said, would you you like to go to the movies? She's like, yes. I'm like, no, I'm not actually asking you to the movies. I'm getting you to practice saying no. And she couldn't say no to any of them. I do want to go to the movies.
Man, I love that I love that you're changing the narrative on a lot of this stuff. You know, you're changing the narrative on. I mean, for a long time when we were growing up, failure was a bad thing.
Yeah,
failure was a bad thing.
Terrible.
And so
hide it.
Yeah, hide it. Don't talk about it. Be shameful about it.
Yeah.
And then you're also highlighting in relationships. You know, that conflict that we have is good.
Yeah.
It's healthy stuff. And if you're able to work through it, my gosh, power to you, because you don't have to leave that relationship with all this unfinished business.
Yeah.
You know, all that sort of stuff that hasn't been resolved. Stick at it. Stay in it. And then as you've gracefully moved into this part of life, I just love that you're like, this is who I am. Because I was just saying to Petra, don't you think it's weird that people want to dye their hair and want to be something else and not just be themselves? Like that should be the narrative that we're working towards, is just, this is who I am versus, gotta figure out another version of myself tomorrow or next week. Like, that's hard work.
There's a lot of pressure because there's stuff to sell, right? We've got to
Gotta
keep
live
the
up to
economy
it.
going. They need you to not feel super good about yourself so that
Yeah.
you buy the thing that makes you feel better about yourself. Like
Yeah.
there is economic imperative to dissatisfaction. I think we've lost the art of satisfaction. We've seen it as unambitious and ungoing anywhere. Like, what if satisfaction? What if we pursued peace? What if I was increasing the peace in my life and still able to take action?
Yeah.
For myself or for someone else or on their behalf? What if I was able to be actively engaged peacefully? Like, whoa. You know, I'm like, but maybe you can't sell so much to somebody who's feeling pretty peaceful. Maybe that's a harder sell.
Content.
Do you need this? Do you want this?
And peace-
You
peace with
should have
themselves.
this. You need this to feel better about yourself. You need this air fryer. You need this vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
You need this car. You need this haircut. You know, like, or nah.
No.
I got this as a clothes swap. This is a brand new sweatshirt. Got it at a clothes swap for free. I'm like, yes.
That's a cool top.
It's funny. I was with the girl when she bought it. She never wore it. She's like, oh, it's too big for me. I'm like, oh, I'll take it. But, you know, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, yeah, peace out.
Yeah. Love it.
But we're so glad. We're so glad you said yes to us.
Oh, thanks.
So, say no. So we appreciate it, Petra. It has been. It's been really, like Charles has said, it's just been really enlightening in terms of your sharing and your perspective, and also with Caroline as well. It is. I can guarantee it's going to be very helpful for our men to get a bit of an insight and a bit of a glimpse of, man, this is what a woman, a wahine, are thinking, are going through. And so instead of kind of stepping back and avoiding the conversations and the awkwardness, but like you said, walking together, shoulder to shoulder, and collaborating together and supporting each other and being able to understand what our wahines are going through, and vice versa, what we're going through. And so, Petra, what an amazing night tonight. And so, thank you so much for coming on and for giving us your insights. It's been a real honor and a pleasure. Appreciate it. Any last words, team?
Oh man, I'm just over the moon. First of all, I was like, I can't believe Petra's coming.
Oh, you're so kind. I'm just like
secondly-
a regular person.
Secondly, you're absolutely beautiful in person with your grey hair.
Oh,
I love that you're making grey look stylish. That's exciting
Grey looks
for me.
sexy. Grey looks-
Because
Yeah,
my
yeah.
mom's like, anyone who doesn't dye their hair is just rude. And I'm like, that's it. I'm not dyeing my hair just to kind
It just was a way. It was a way of being that the hair dye was revolutionary
Yeah,
for them,
that's
and
right.
now it's like not.
And you're just, and I think when I saw you on one of your first podcasts, I was like, is that Petra with grey hair? Like, I actually had to stop and re-look at one of your podcasts, and I was like, wow, she's cool. Like, just making it look stylish, making it look cool, fresh, all of that. So the fact that you're here with us sharing your insights, oh my gosh, you're so over the moon about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think similar to everyone, it's been quite like a new experience, and I think just being exposed to things, because now that I think about it, I don't really have too many like
Women friends.
Yeah, no, not really. No, it's just mainly me and my wife and like a couple of in a circle of friends that are like younger or similar age, but no one really who's like can help give a preview to what might come and how we might sort of reinforce ourselves and our relationships. And so yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the wisdom. Honestly, I feel like I'm at uni with my lecture notes again. Like all the questions I had all got asked organically, so I'm just grateful. I was just taking in nuggets. And something you said that I thought was really cool was like, where is my inner goddess? And it just made me think like there's God is in all of us.
Yeah, God's in all of us.
And so it's just
Truly.
a lot of the journey is finding it within ourselves and being able to project. So thank you so much for the enlightenment.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just really honoured and privileged that you were sitting across from you, and we grew up watching you, and a lot of what you've shared has been like really helpful for us as men, and it made me straight away just reflect. I was going, oh man, you know, self-assessment and making sure that, man, my wife does feel like she's valued and supported and that I'm present, and so thank you for just being here. And you know, for me, you know, I sometimes when I sit with I'm just gonna say like with Pākehā, I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh shucks, there's always this, I feel inferior sometimes, but with you, man, it's just like a sis, you know, there's the cuzzy that's just come in, and you know, Caroline would know, like that's massive for me in terms of like just who we're trying to reach and the conversations we're having, and thank you for always being like supportive and just being a voice for everyone, and I'm just so cool. I can message you, hey sis, how are you?
You can message me.
And so bless you and everything that you're doing, and you and your marriage and your family and your podcast and all your future endeavors. We will continue to pray for you, and we just hope that you stay number one, or you stay up there, because if you're up there, that's our sister, man. That's our cousin. We're coming too.
No, I'll be 127 soon enough. But it's just thanks for your manaakitanga and your pātai, for your questions and for your kindness. So lovely. You just made me feel so at home and welcome to show up as myself. So I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Petra. And also one more thing as well, Petra, because thank you for embracing the culture, embracing the language of tangata whenua.
Oh, it's a privilege.
And te reo, and also our Pasifika people. So that means a lot for all of us here as Pasifika and Māori. And so, lo lava soi fua, whataitele lava. But Petra, we do have a gift for you. Every guest that comes on, we always do a caricature of how we envision our guests to be. And so this is on behalf of the Mandate team. This is for you, Petra.
I can watch that teacup flip. Oh my goodness. Oh, I look really fabulous and quite young.
Wow, this is for you as well. This is for the road.
Oh, thanks. My children will be very appreciative of the chocolate. You have spoiled me. Thank you. Who did the drawing?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
No, we appreciate it. But thank you so much for your time. But before we kind of wrap up, is there someone that you would suggest that would be perfect to come on the podcast, female or male?
Yeah, Selena Tusitali-Marsh, Poet Laureate of New Zealand. She was a few years ago. Fantastic Pacifican woman. Wow, she's fire. Yeah, I would. I recommend her. She's a poet. She's amazing. Ooh, we've already had Pio today.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. Have you had Stacey Morrison?
No. She'll be awesome.
Yeah, totally awesome.
Cool.
There's quite a few. Some of them I want to interview. Hannah O'Regan, Tiffany Regan's daughter. She'd be amazing. Yeah, maybe Sasha McMeeking. So, yeah, like honestly, there's wahine tour out there that you are going to have so much fun talking to. I reckon.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So cool. But also, just we always give our guests the last word. So, if any words of encouragement for our men and our women out there?
Yeah. Can I say how much I love you and how magnificent you are, and how nobody can take any of your value. No one can reduce any of your value by their words or actions, that your essential worth is intact. And moving out of this place of I am enough is such a powerful gift you give yourself and the world. And I mean, you were saying, you know, in terms of what can we do in our relationships, I think we can be really, really brave and show up and say, I need, or I want, or I think, or I feel. And in relationships, when we choose to show up and bring ourselves and that dangerous word I, rather than you know, you do this or you do that, or you, that when we can take off that armor of telling the other person what they think or feel or do and own our own thoughts and feelings and doings, that that is a powerful gift we bring into our relationships and into the world. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you once again, Petra. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Look forward to your Wātara comments. And as usual, brothers and sister,
refine,
Unlock,
and
take charge.
Mandate.